Previously, an overpowered boy named Lloyd leaves his village where only extremely powerful people live. In a town called Azami, he meets new friends who all admire and test his incredible power. At a tournament, they all find out that the prize is the Holy Sword, which is a very important item that must not fall into wrong hands. When summer vacation begins, Lloyd gets a part-time job at a big hotel in the middle of the woods. Its owner, a bald man called Koba, shows Lloyd around and tells him there were recently cases of people falling unconscious for no reason. Lloyd meets Kikayo, a red-haired girl who is his senior part-time worker, and impresses her by cleaning a whole room in seconds. That evening, Lord 309, a noble staying at the hotel, meets with Kikayo in his room. It turns out they are working together and suspect Koba of illegally planting trees. Living tree creatures. There are rumors about a demonic tree sapling being brought to this hotel, its presence possibly causing the comatose attacks. Since that sapling uses a human as a host, amplifying his strength and speed, they suspect Lloyd of being its host and working with Koba. Meanwhile, Koba suspects that Kikayo and 309 are behind the comatose attacks. The next day, Riho is staying at Koba's hotel for vacation and gets surprised when Lloyd brings her room service. Coincidentally, Selen and her father, a strict blonde man wearing glasses, stay at the hotel too. Selen's father arranged her to have a marriage interview with Lord 309's son, who is actually Alan. She is against it, but her father makes her go anyway. Meeting with Lord 309, Selen and her father wait for Alan when Lloyd enters. Selen happily escapes the marriage interview with him, and they go to a storage room where they join up with Riho. Selen takes Lloyd to the hot springs, where they meet Marie and Alka, who have followed Lloyd. Even Philo and Mina are there, because they are on a mission to investigate the hotel. In the woods, while observing Lloyd and the others, Kikayo gets interrupted by 309's secretary, a creepy man called Minoki. He tells her he is possessed by the demonic Treant sapling and starts transforming into a Treant-human hybrid. He admits he also started illegally growing Treants on 309's favorite mountain to get back at him for abusing him. He advances towards the hotel where 309 is talking to Selen's father. When Minoki crashes through the window and starts attacking 309, Selen and the others stop him, forcing him to return outside. Mina and Riho freeze him in place with a spell, but he is still not defeated. Lloyd joins them, jumping on Minoki's head and crushing his red Treant core, which makes Minoki revert to a human. The next day, Koba and 309 apologize to each other for suspecting one another. Selen's father also apologizes to her for forcing her to attend the marriage interview. Sometime later in a church at night, the gray-haired man who changed Rawl's memories meets with Shoma, who brings Makona with him. Makona tells them she wants to kill Lloyd, and they give her medicines that give her the power of Abaddon and the Treants. She drinks them both immediately, growing locust wings on her back and Treant branches from her arms. The following morning, Selen and Riho get a mission directly from the king to defeat a huge snake, a new monster that appeared in a nearby dungeon. In a cafe somewhere else, Shoma and the gray-haired man called Sue also intend to kill the snake. Alka hears them talking about it and takes Marie with her to check out the dungeon. Entering the dark dungeon, Lloyd and the others explore, while Marie and Alka enter it from somewhere else, crashing through the ceiling. Marie splits up from Alka and finds Makona tangled inside a huge tree, waiting for Lloyd. Lloyd crashes through a wall and finds them. Flying into the air and turning into her locust form, Makona clashes with Lloyd, but he dodges and blocks all her attacks. As they fight, the force of their blows causes the dungeon to start collapsing. Finally, Lloyd manages to grab Makona and spin her around, before throwing her out of the dungeon far into the air. As things calm down and Lloyd's friends come out to meet him, a giant red snake appears behind him. It turns out the snake knows Lloyd and is friendly towards him because he remembers him from when he was little. The snake's name is Viritra, and he is the guardian beast of Kunlun village. He says he escaped to the dungeon because he's angry at Alka for making an apron from the skin off his back. Suddenly, Sue appears and asks Lloyd how he looks to him. Lloyd sees a demonic red aura around him, concluding he is a bad man. Alka crashes through the floor, exclaiming she finally found Sue. Sue stabs Viritra with his bare hand and kills him in order to weaken Kunlun's seal and Alka's powers. It turns out Viritra is still alive, only he is now inside Selen's belt. It turns out Alka wanted to make an apron from Viritra's scales, but accidentally messed up. Making a belt out of it, she sold it for cheap, calling it a cursed belt. As the dungeon continues collapsing, Alka takes out her crystal ball and uses it to teleport everyone outside. Later at the royal palace, the king receives a letter from Ju inviting Azami to hold a friendly exhibition match between their students. He decides to choose Alan as Azami's fighter, Traveling through a forest, Lloyd, Riho, Selin, Philo, Marie, and Alka head to Cumlin so they can heal Viritra. Along with them are Colleen and Chrome. Entering a cave, they meet with a cheeky blue-haired dwarf girl called Yug. Everyone passes through a rainbow-colored portal and emerge on a cliff overlooking Cumlin village. Reaching a town square, Riho, Philo, and Chrome sense frightening power coming from all the villagers. People who live there live a strange and intense lifestyle, being incredibly strong and fast. For example, they travel by firing each other from cannons. Reaching Alka's house, Colleen and Chrome visit Murdoffin, who is working in the wheat fields. His attitude changed from patriot to farming enthusiast, surprising them. Preparing a huge feast, Lloyd's family and friends from the village eat dinner with the people from Azami. In another room, Murdoffin sincerely apologizes to Marie and explains what happened before he got involved with Abaddon. One day, a traveling merchant gave him a mysterious egg and hypnotized him into giving it to the king. When the king took it in his hands, the egg released a green vapor which turned him into Abaddon. The only thing Murdoffin remembers about the merchant is that he asked him what he looks like to him, which is a question Marie heard before. The following morning, Lloyd and the others travel to the Last Dungeon to resurrect Viritra. Yuve explains the Last Dungeon serves as a prison for demon lords and Cumlin village exists so the villagers can defeat any demon lords that escape the dungeon. She explains that the Holy Sword serves as the key to the dungeon and Chrome assures her the sword is now safe in the castle treasury. Yu creates a kitchen from nothing, and Selin gives her the magical belt. Wrapping Viritra around a piece of meat and preparing it like she is making roast pork. She puts it inside a red spherical container and stews it in a pot for 3 hours. After 3 hours pass, she takes out the red sphere from the pot and Alka starts feeling weak. Everyone prepares to head back through the portal to Azami, but they are still waiting for Lloyd to say goodbye to all the villagers. Yu tells Alka they need to talk about something important. She takes her to the forest where she steps on a hidden pressure plate, opening up a hole which Alka falls into. As Alka is trapped at the bottom of the pit, Yu tells her that instead of reviving Viritra, she sealed him instead. Working together with Su and Shoma, she wants to unlock the Last Dungeon and let all the demon lords outside in order to remake the world. While Lloyd was still saying goodbye to the villagers, Yu tells Selin and the others to pass through the portal back to Azami before him. While Lloyd is looking for Alka, Yu goes back with Selin and the others, closing the portal after her. Murdoffin visited Azami with them too, carrying some vegetables to give to Marie as a souvenir. In town, Mina and Riho decide to visit Raul in the hospital. Riho asks her about the man who told her about the Holy Sword, but Raul doesn't remember anything except him asking her what he looks like to her. Riho remembers Su said the same thing to Lloyd back in the dungeon. Raul also remembers she heard a child eating a lollipop, and Riho recognizes that might have been Yu because she is a dwarf and is always eating candy. At the arena, while everyone is making preparations for the exhibition match, Riho warns the king that Azami might be in danger. That night, Lloyd finds Alka sitting in the pit and rescues her. When they return to Cumlin, Alka sends Lloyd back to Azami by firing him from a cannon. He keeps traveling through the air by using wind spells to propel himself. The next day, the exhibition match between Azami and Ju starts. At the arena, Alan faces Ju's fighter who turns out to be Makona. Alan desperately fights against Makona, but she dodges every one of his attacks and defeats him with a kick. The king, who is spectating the match with Ju's representatives, Shoma and Su, is confused about what is going on. Su asks him if he wants to make an alliance with Ju so they can take over the world together. The king declines Su's request, saying he swore not to cause any more hardship towards his country's people after he got possessed by Abaddon. Nearby, Selin, Marie, Philo, and Riho surround Yu, saying they figured out her plans. With a smile on her face, Yu throws locust eggs into the air, summoning a swarm of giant locusts who start attacking the audience. It turns out the king was prepared for an attack, so he replaced the audience with soldiers and adventurers. As the audience fights the locusts, Murdoffin appears behind Shoma and attacks him, taking the fight into the arena. While they fight, Shoma says he has become bored of the world. In order to make Lloyd think the world is interesting and to make him realize his dream of becoming a strong soldier, Shoma put the whole world in danger. With incredible speed, he closes the distance between him and Murdoffin, launching him into the audience seats and defeating him. Back at the seats, Alan surprises Su and cuts off his arm. Su isn't bothered by this and attaches his arm back to his body. He reveals he is a creature made of runes. Long ago, when the world was in chaos, he was created by Alka as a beacon of hope to save and lead humanity. After he saved humanity, he was supposed to disappear, but he didn't, so he kept wandering the world. With time, he became an unstable presence seen differently by each person, which is why he asks everyone he meets how he looks to them. His ultimate goal is disappearing completely. In order to do that, he has to kill Alka and turn Lloyd into the hero. At that moment, Lloyd crashes into the middle of the arena, surprising everyone. Alka told him he has to destroy Viritra's container, and Yu shows him she has it with her. Throwing a large rock at her, Lloyd makes her fall off the locust she was riding. She lands safely, using magic, and summons a giant stone golem. The golem sucks an unconscious Makona into itself, making her its power source. Lloyd, thinking this is the first real monster he ever fought, clashes with the golem, but has a hard time fighting it, since it keeps regenerating. After a while, the golem throws him onto the ground and starts punching him while he's down. Suddenly, Murdoffin appears and slashes the golem's head in half. Riedel holds up Marie's panties in the air, promising to give them to Makona if she wakes up. As soon as she hears that, Makona wakes up and takes them, powering off the golem. While Yub is distracted, Selen steals Viritra's container and frees him. Having her power restored, Alka suddenly appears and casts a spell that summons meteors, defeating all the remaining giant locusts. Sue and Shomba pick up Yub and escape, saying their work for that day is done, but promising they will accomplish their goal. Sometime later, everything has returned back to normal. Murdoffin decided to come back to Azami and return to being a soldier. At Marie's house, everyone gathers and Lloyd happily prepares lunch for them. Hey, thank you for staying all the way till the end. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. It takes only a second, but it means everything to us. Have a great day and see you in the next video.